Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. So today I am doing a stack status video. I had hoped to do my December wrap up, but I was hoping to do like a 2020 year in review with my December wrap up, and I haven't quite figured out how I want to do that. So it's not ready yet, so instead I'm doing a stack status. Yay! So my stack status is where I talk about the stacks of books that I've been currently reading and discuss what I've been recently reading, finished, currently reading, and soon to be reading altogether. So let's just dive in. We'll kind of talk about how the last book or two I finished at the end of 2020 and what I'm currently working on. So what have I recently finished? I recently finished the last two books of 2020, or what I'm going to talk about. First was Merry and Bright by Debbie Macomber. This is a holiday romance, a Christmas story romance. It felt really short, like my audiobook was only 4 parts, but I listened to this on audio, and it's told in 2 point of views, and we follow Merry, spelled M-E-R-R-Y, and Jason. And so this is a sort of office romance meets secret identity with online dating situation, because Merry is signed up for online dating by her well-meaning mother and younger brother, and she starts chatting with this guy and they really start connecting, but she doesn't know that he is her boss. Yay for phones going off. So yeah, it was real. So I actually quite enjoyed this story. I haven't read a ton of holiday romances before, but this one was recommended to me by Izzy over on Happy for Now when she read all of her Christmas story novellas or Christmas books. And I thought this one was really nice. It was not very steamy. There's only like a couple of kisses in it. There's nothing, more adult than that on the sex scale. But what I really appreciated about Merry and Bright was that the emotional development was really strong. Both characters have an opportunity to like have a conversation, and then at the end of that conversation, they like each of them like explicitly is like, like, wow, like she's so thoughtful, like that's so, like I really enjoy that trait. Or the other person is like, wow, like he seems to like really care about, home life, like yeah, like that's a great quality. And so I really enjoyed, that's like my catnip. Like I love to see that emotional development happen. So even though this book was short, I really felt like the payoff was good because we got to see how the characters developed feelings for each other. So I quite enjoyed Merry and Bright by Debbie Macomber, and I never read anything by that author, even though I know she's published a ton of books and has a huge backlist. So I feel like that was kind of a win for me. I rated it 4 stars, I think. And then the last book that I finished on New Year's Eve at like 10 p.m. was a nonfiction book, and it was called This Is Going to Hurt, subtitle The Secret Diaries of a Medical Resident, and the author is Adam Kay. And so this is a nonfiction book, and it is sort of a collection of diary entries from when Adam was going through his residency equivalent. He's from the UK, so it's kind of called different levels. But when he was like a junior and senior registrar and moving up through the ranks. And so it was a collection of his like diary entries from that time, but then also like those were kind of lumped together based on what year he was, and each of the chapters kind of had their own introduction that was clearly added after the fact. And I loved this book. I love this book. To me, it's like a 4.9, if not a 5-star read. I am in the medical field myself. I grew up with family members in the medical field. No one's a doctor, but I felt like that is an area of my life that I like kind of know maybe a little bit more than the average person about. And the stories were hilarious. And also the author, Adam Kay, he goes into OBGYN, or obs and gynae as they call it across the pond. And so that's even closer to what I currently do in my current job. And so there are so many stories in here that are like kind of hilarious, that are hilarious. I was laughing out loud. There were multiple times where there was like 2 times where I was in tears. I was laughing so hard. And laced sort of throughout all this humor, he has a very like sarcastic humor, very like, he like presents it to you, and like if you don't understand what's happening, like then you miss it, but like if you get it, it feels hilarious. But like sort of laced throughout all of these stories are some sad stories, because there's also like people trying to, there's always sad stories when it comes to hospital stories and babies and, infertility. And, he touches on some of those other topics. So there were some deeper moments, and there was, a couple different entries that sort of really brought a tear to my eye or maybe missed up. But like also kind of throughout the whole thing, while he avoids direct political commentary about like politics about socialized medicine, there is a basic undercurrent throughout the whole book about how he was like overworked and underpaid, and doctors and other medical professionals, the nurses and the other, staff members were part of what made the job kind of terrible for him. Like there was good with the bad, and like this book I felt was very careful in how it discussed the bad parts of medicine that I felt were applicable even, like to a US setting. And it really made me think a lot more about healthcare behind the scenes, because like we as patients don't always view doctors the way other doctors view doctors. So I would really recommend this book. If anything that I've said in the last blah 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 about this is going to hurt, if any of that sounds vaguely interesting, if you have doctors in your life, especially ones that you are close to, I would really recommend giving it a shot, because I found the whole book to be hilarious, because all these little vignettes were such a range of emotions, and I really enjoyed that. I felt like I ended the year strongly on that nonfiction front. So yeah, those are the last two books that I have recently finished. So I'm currently reading like a bunch of books. I'm still in the middle of The Shadow Rising. I have one or two other books that I've kind of started 10, 20 pages in and then just never like put it back down. So I probably will go pick those back up. But the three that I'm working on directly right now are The Roommate by Rosie Danan. And this is a adult romance. It is very steamy. There's definitely a lot of, not safe for work content. And the sort of premise is that the main character, Clara, has moved across the country in the hopes of kind of finally being able to live with and eventually like fall in love, get this guy she's had a crush on for her whole life, childhood best friend that she's been pining for 15 years to like fall for her. And basically as soon as she moves, lands in LA, he's like, hey, peace out, gotta go. And so he just like dumps her with his place to live, where she, thought she was gonna be in the spare room. And he's like rented out the other room. So she is this like uptight, prim, prissy, proper socialite, and the other person who's in the other room is someone she doesn't know, instead of her guy that she's been pining after. And that guy is Jason, our male main character, and he works in the adult entertainment industry. And so she's sort of the prude and he is the porn star, and they start to kind of develop feelings / have awkward interactions about that topic. So for me, I'm enjoying this book, but also like, I feel like the story is kind of weak. I do appreciate that both characters are being very like straight, like she's blushing the entire time, but like they are having relatively frank conversations about sex, and she seems to be relatively uneducated / minimal practical experience or practical like positive experiences. And so he is instructive / helpful toward that. So I feel like there is a lot of discussion sort of laced throughout this book about like sex positivity and also like women's pleasure positivity. That sort of becomes a main theme third or maybe 40% of the way through the book, as they start really kind of emphasizing women's pleasure. And I really enjoy that those are topics that are being brought up, but like as an actual like romance between these two characters, I feel like it's just kind of like, it's just like the storyline is actually kind of weak. So I'm enjoying it. I want to see where it's going to go. Maybe this will turn around. I do feel like our two characters are being emotionally vulnerable with each other. Mostly because they both just don't feel like any sort of relationship is possible. So they're like, wow, I have secret feelings, but like this isn't going to go anywhere. So I can just be real with this other person that they then develop even stronger feelings for. But like I also feel like the reason that they're like, I can't be with this person is kind of crappy. So I don't know how this is going to go for like a romance pleasing me, but at the same time I'm kind of intrigued as to where this is going to go. Talked way too much about that. The other two books I'm reading are The Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid. This is I tried to look up another book and this book came up and I was like, well, it sounds pretty good. Heated Rivalry is a male-male sports romance where the two main characters are both huge big deal hockey players, and there's no hockey players in the NHL are out as openly gay or bi or anything other than straight. So when the two of them and they're like rivals, like they're on rival teams, like they have been competing for years and years, but also for years and years they've been having these secret meetups where they are engaging in activities that they don't want anyone to find out about. So of the sexy variety. So I like this book. It's definitely like a sort of rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers situation. It's a sports romance, but like I don't know anything at all about hockey, so it doesn't really matter that you don't know anything about hockey. And I'm enjoying it. I was kind of nervous for the first like 30% or so because we kept kind of jumping like 3 months later, 6 months later, and like basically these two weren't really interacting in a like relationship way. They were just like hooking up secretly. And especially Shane was feeling a lot, especially like the prologue. If you read the prologue, Shane is just full of guilt. He's full of sort of self-loathing. And I was just like, I don't know that I want to read a book where, you know, at least this character, if not both the characters, are kind of like not into it, you know? But I think that has been something that they are kind of working through. I felt like there was not enough emotion at the start, but then that is art that has been coming through more. And I'm at, I don't know, 60% or something now, and I'm really enjoying it. So I think that like, if that's not your cup of tea, it does get better. And it is very sexy. It is written by a woman though, so I haven't really looked into that aspect of things. And the last thing that I am currently reading is a book that I started listening to today at work. I'm listening to the audiobook of Tony's Wife, and the author is Adriana Trigiani. This is a literary fiction book. I don't really know that much more about it other than it's like World War II, big band, 1940s era. And that the two main characters are like supposed to both be in love and both be performers, be singers, and like how they navigate like potentially starting a family or potentially having different career choices. This was chosen for one of my like real life book clubs, and I'm just like not really in the mood for literary fiction. And so the book club is tomorrow. So I'm listening to it on like 1.5, and everyone has these like long Italian names, and there's just enough like 1930s slang that it's kind of annoying to me to listen to. And at this point, I probably will not even get halfway into the book, so I might just stop it. But I listened to the first 2.5 parts of 13 today, and I was just kind of like, yeah, all right, like young troubles. It just wasn't grabbing me. So I don't know that will make it because I'm trying to like only read things that are really things that I'm enjoying. So my TBR is well, I guess it's sort of set because I have things I want to do. Jen from the Book Refuge and Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life have a historical romance group book club called the Rake Appreciation Society, and they have chosen 2 Julia Quinn books for January, and that live show is January 14th. So I'll put the date here. I have it written down. But they're reading Mr. Cavendish, I presume, and The Lost Duke of Wyndham. And those are like a duology that actually take place at the same time. So it like apparently doesn't matter what order you read those in. I have one of those checked out from the library. I think I have The Lost Duke of Wyndham ready to go on audiobook. I'm going to keep giving historical romances a try, but if they all turn out to be like 3 stars, 3 stars, I don't know that that's a subgenre that I'm going to like really devote a lot of time to, but I have those books intended to read in the next 10 days or so because that's when the book club is. I also have checked out The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, which is a book for another romance book club that I just heard about called Sugar and Spice. All the info that I'm talking about is all going to be down in the description. This is Kirsten from Kirsten Corner and Amanda from Ginger Snap Reads. The two of them started a romance book club that's going to be meeting like monthly that they called Sugar and Spice. So I was going to try to read The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker for that, which I've also heard about a couple places. I think Rachel from It's Rachel C really likes that series, so I'm excited to get to that. Also, like 10 minutes before I started filming this, my hold on Anxious People by Fredrik Backman came available. So I have plenty of books. There's always. I also have a huge stack of books over here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books sitting over there that are not like a haul, but like there's stuff that I want to get to. Plus I have all my library books. There's always a gazillion things to be read. So I might actually start cutting back on some book clubs going forward. I love going to the live discussions and participating in that, but like if I only manage to read 12-ish books a month and I'm in 5 book clubs, or if I'm in multiple book clubs and they're reading 2 or 3 books a month, because I was also kind of hoping to participate in the Immortals After Dark IAD readathon. So I'm like, one of my goals for 2021 is to not to overbook myself, not to overcommit. And I already feel like I'm like, well, most of my like fun reading is kind of spoken for because I'm going to be doing all this other stuff. So if you have any advice, leave that down in the comments. Otherwise, yeah, those are my stacks of books, what I have been recently finished and currently reading and hope to be reading soon. So if you have read any of these authors before, or if you think I really should stick with Tony's Wife, or if you have a recommendation that's very similar to This Is Going to Hurt, a la nonfiction, that would be great. Put those down in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel. I do mostly romance, but also a variety of other stuff too, obviously, some of which I don't really like. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll talk to you next time. Look out for my December wrap-up / 2020 wrap-up, probably Friday or Saturday. Cool. Great. Take care. The end. Bye.